Ja wears a lot of flair. To me, at a certain point, it's a red flag. But hey, maybe I'm just an old head, right? And the young boy got the swag and the juice and all that. To me, it's just a little too much. Here is my spicy take of the day, and I think you already see where I'm going with this. Ja Morant is the most overrated player in the league right now.
That's all I needed for him to do that, and it became personal with me.
Monday, May 24th, episode 72. This is the Hezi, brought to you by basketballgods.net. Had to open my big mouth. Dub Nation, y'all good? Y'all good? By now, all of you know what happened Friday night. You saw a team that was hungrier, fresher, and deeper roll into the Chase Center and shock the Warriors. It was really a 2-game playoff series when you consider the final regular season game and what that meant. Now, did the Warriors in that 8-man rotation run out of gas? Sure, right? I mean, you can throw all sorts of excuses out there. But you also saw Taylor Jenkins and his staff outcoach Steve Kerr. The Warriors system has always been a regular season system. But during the dynasty, they had so much talent come playoff time, they could just abandon the system. And that's no longer the case. And so what you saw Friday night was just a very predictable offense with not enough weapons to keep that Memphis defense honest. It resulted in 21 turnovers. Draymond Green emotionally spent from that matchup with the Lakers and his clutch brethren, right? We can talk about him sharding himself at the rim late in that game. There's all sorts of reasons. I have a 16, it might even be 17-minute breakdown on my Patreon where we cover it all, if you dare to relive it. But as I always do when the Warriors season is over, I cover the entire offseason, the draft process, summer league breakdowns, all that stuff, like you won't get anywhere else. But if you're not a Warriors fan, be aware that on my Patreon now, I am covering the rest of the playoffs. So that means you're going to get a few breakdowns a week and some other stuff all the way through the finals if you want to see that type of coverage. So please consider supporting my work. Pledges start at $1 a month, man. So, I promise you it's worth at least that. But again, I will be covering all things Warriors as always through the biggest offseason in this regime's tenure. It's without question, right? Potential 2 lottery draft picks. James Wiseman, it looks like they're going to push the chips in. When you see the season that Steph Curry had, I think that's the way they're leaning. But again, what's on the table? It's all good. You can push your chips in, but for what? And there'll be a prospect breakdown of every projected lottery pick, trade propositions, and then just evaluating the roster. I think Jordan Poole, we need to talk about that. Anyway, I don't want to go too much into it. I know a lot of you probably are still in like the avoidance phase, right? So when you're ready, come holler at your boy on my Patreon. Let's talk about the now. It's hard not to like this Grizzlies team. I'm not a hater, right? Like, it's hard not to like them. They play hard, no nonsense ball. I love that they're not really celebrating, right? That's fine. Like, beat your chest. You make a big shot. Ja was amazing, right? Like, he made me eat my words. And you're seeing him not settle for the jumper. I mean, he hit the 5 threes. I don't even know what to say about that shit. But you see him getting to his sweet spots. And that's fine. I don't mean not celebrating, like beat your chest, scream when you hit a big shot. But they're acting like they're supposed to be doing this. I really like that, again, their kind of lunch pail mentality, grind city, Memphis. It fits the city. And again, they're just an easy team to like. So they ride the momentum of the win against the Warriors Friday night. They show up last night in Utah and steal game 1. Dillon Brooks is not going to take no for an answer. I want to shout out my guy, Nikolai. Best comp I've heard. He said he's the new Jimmy Butler, an average, talented player with the mindset and work ethic to become a star. Now, Jimmy is more athletic. Dillon's probably a better shooter, but still, that's spot on, right? They're cut from the same cloth, and Brooks looks like he's going to follow that Jimmy Butler trajectory into becoming an all-star. It was the final game 1, seeing it as though Memphis, had to play in the play-in. And just before tip, they scratched Donovan Mitchell from the starting lineup. He warmed up and they shut him down. the Jazz are not going to be able to just flip a switch and all of a sudden their backcourt is all good. That was ridiculous to think. The Jazz, as they currently stand, are nowhere near the number 1 seed ranking that they hold. The game was controlled by Memphis. Now, you saw the Jazz make a late push. Bogdanovich got hot, right? And then up 3, under a minute, Kyle Anderson makes a very smart play taking that foul in live time, right? It wasn't out of a timeout where they were coached up, hey, let's foul, we're up 3. No, it was just a heady play. But I mean, I expect nothing less from a brother with that massive of a frontal cortex. I mean, that motherfucker shit is panoramic. Like he's a brain out there, right? Slow-mo's a brain. So, I think that was kind of the story late as Reggie Miller was gushing over his UCLA brethren. But you would imagine that Mitchell would give it a go in game 2. Look, man, I knew it was bad news. Y'all saw when he rolled the ankle, right? He was in full elevation. It was one of those big leaping jumps. He comes down on it, and it just looks so bad. You knew that it was bad when they felt the need to lie about it. Because the Jazz, if you've been paying attention, they've been lying about Mitchell's ankle. He rolls it. A couple of days later, they go, oh, it's not as bad as we thought. He's going to be back soon. And then every week they would update it and be like, oh, no. He's not. He's almost ready, right? And then he's supposed to be ready. And then they scratch him right before the game. So, an ankle's an ankle. I assume he's going to go out there and try to give it a go now that they're down. But I think what you're probably going to see is an inefficient Donovan Mitchell try to play some hero basketball because the Jazz are going to be in a dogfight with this Grizzlies team. You can't come back from, what has it been, a month, 2-month injury and get right in a physical playoff series. And so there's a good chance that Mitchell actually hurts them, at least for the 2 or 3 games until he kind of gets his legs under him. By then it'll be too late. And so what I'm telling you is I think we're going to get an 8-1 upset. But maybe I'm just a prisoner of the moment and seeing what Memphis did to my Warriors. Now I'm too high on Memphis. I do respect Memphis. I think they've got something flowing here, right? There's good chemistry. There's toughness. They've got some depth. Ja has found this confidence offensively it's become a problem, man. And so, my hat's off to them. But I also think it's in part that Utah isn't a legit number 1 seed, right? So it's a mixture of both. I think we're in for a long series where if I had to put my money on it, it'd be Memphis. They're healthy, they're confident, and they match up pretty damn well. He's back. Pandemic Pete, my guy. Yo, I'm going to shoot him some bail for game 1. I'm not even going to, I'm just going to leave it there. I'm not going to go in yet. Clippers, Mavericks. I'm sure most of you saw the clip of Luka yelling at Pat Beverly after an and 1. You're too fucking small. And that was really a microcosm of this matchup in this series. And I'll remind you, the Clippers asked for this. They tanked their way into this matchup. But the funny thing is, from Dallas's perspective, it's very clear there's no fear or even respect for this Clippers team. And I'm here for it. The big story was Luka dominating the game. And post-game, everybody's questioning, well, why wasn't Kawhi on him? Aren't you going to put Kawhi on him? And Ty Lue said, well, game 2, you're going to get what you asked for. We're going to see Kawhi try to put the claws on Luka. But let's just call it what it is, though. Game 2 in Los Angeles, not only is the Clippers' season on the line, this roster's on the line. Kawhi probably already has his bags packed. Like, the pressure on this Clippers team is nuts. They asked for this matchup, and I think Mavericks Clippers not the most intriguing game 2 of this round 1, right? Because they go down 0-2 as the home team in this matchup, considering the context and everything around this roster. Ooh-wee. I know Bob Myers licking his chops. So we'll see. I expect all hands on deck spirited effort game 2. And I'm very intrigued to see the Kawhi-Luka matchup. So often we see in today's NBA, these guys, they don't match up against each other. It's just not the way things are done anymore. And Kawhi is kind of, break in case of emergency defender now, right? He doesn't do it consistently. So I want to see Kawhi flip the switch and see if he can shut Luka down. So this is going to be a moment, I think, in this game too. Is Luka so good that he gives it to Kawhi, or does Kawhi still have it? Is he still a lockdown elite defender? So I'm very curious to see what happens in game 2 with that. Bucks beat the Heat in overtime Saturday. I missed that one. I can't watch them all, y'all, especially in this first round where there was 8 games over the weekend or whatever it was. But apparently Chris Middleton carried them late, and Bucks dodged a bullet, man, because you can't go down 0-1 against a team that a lot of people think is going to upset you, right? But they play game 2 tonight, so I will cover that one tomorrow. I will have some Bucks Heat takes for you tomorrow. You can believe that. Nets, Celtics, you know I didn't miss that one. Maybe a little closer than people expected, right? The Nets open up ice cold from behind the arc. I mean, what did they shoot? They were shooting in the 20% from behind the arc. I was glad to see young Robert Williams not only be able to play, he had a huge impact. What did he set a record? He had 8 blocks. The dude is a gifted shot blocker, but I talked a little bit about that last week. That's in part why he's always hurt. He's putting his body in compromising positions, flying and blocking shots that no one expects him to even try to go after. So they hung around even though Kemba was way off, man. And, obviously they're going to need him to be better. And to tell you the truth, from an aesthetic standpoint, I just don't like Kemba's jumper. I don't like the way it looks. It looks like a confident Draymond jumper, right? There's a little backpack element to it now. He kicks his legs. There's more elevation on it. But my eye test tells me it can't be consistent. That motion is, it's just a funky motion. And he was ice cold. Tatum carried them, at least in the first half. Second half, Jeff Green kind of put the clamps on him. Jeff Green, underrated player, man, underrated pickup for them. You could argue he's the X factor for Brooklyn because he's the guy that's going to draw the Giannis assignment, the Tatum assignment, the potential LeBron assignment, right? And what can he do? How can he hang? Smart defender, willing to put his body on the line. And I think what you saw with Tatum in that second half is he can't really big boy Green like he can a lot of these other smaller wings where he can kind of just pivot and reach over and finish over the top of them. That wasn't happening with Jeff Green. And then late, you saw KD get real physical with Tatum, right? He was giving him all sorts of arm shivers, forearm shivers, and Tatum was whining and complaining. Get mad, JT. Push back. Don't whine about it. Get physical right back. Fortunately, KD was all right. That spill in the first half where he bounced on his shoulder, I thought we were going to have an Andrew Bogut injury. I was going to say go look up the Bogut elbow injury, but maybe don't if you haven't eaten your lunch. Of the big 3 for Brooklyn, it was Harden who struggled. 5 of 13 from the field, and he no longer has that unlimited amount of volume to turn a poor shooting night around. You saw that so many times when he was in a Rockets uniform. Harden's kind of a slow starter, especially in the playoffs. Again, I'm gonna give some of these dudes a pass for game 1, but we get into game 5, we're gonna talk about it. But Harden historically, he'll start off ice cold, right? But he takes so many shots that eventually he gets hot and the numbers even out. He no longer kind of has that with this roster, which is fine. But the one thing I noticed with Harden is he doesn't like shooting catch and shoot jumpers. Everything is so rhythmic, that signature between the leg little baby split dribble and the step back. I don't know how comfortable he is at this point in his career, like standing on the weak side, the ball swung to him and he just catch and shoots it. I'm not saying he's not capable of it. I'm saying he's not comfortable with it right now. But ultimately, it was a wave of offense in that second half. Joe Harris started banging him down, and you saw that Brooklyn avalanche offensively. And so Boston, look, game 1 is always the best opportunity to steal a game if you're an underdog, and they missed that chance. I expect them to get 1 in Boston. They got to have one spirited effort in Boston, and that's probably as far as it goes, right? Lakers, Suns. Can somebody tell me why Dennis Schroeder is getting whistles like he's a legend? When did Dennis Schroeder, I guess it's just how well he physically sells it, right? But he gets to the basket with some cheap ass fouls, but I digress because game really wasn't about Schroeder, right? Early second quarter, and it looks like the Suns season is over. Chris Paul goes down, and what I initially thought looked like was a dislocated shoulder. He's grabbing his right shoulder, and how many times have we seen Chris Paul hurt himself where he is kind of initiating the contact and kind of flopping around. Now, I believe it was incidental contact with Cam Johnson. It was his own teammate. But so many times you see Chris kind of seek a body or contact and do that thing where he hits the floor to try to draw a cheap one or whatever he's trying to do. And it's cost him so many times. So after a very dramatic exit from the game, and mind you, it's in Phoenix, a lot of people in the attendance, he comes out of the locker room. And it's like, okay, man, maybe he has a stinger. Maybe it was a stinger because I thought it was a shoulder. I thought he was done the way he left the floor. He gets back out there, and it looks like he had a stroke. Looks like he can't use the right side of his body. It was nuts. So credit for him for gutting it out. But I will say some of the shots he was shooting where he was hoisting it right off his shoulder, I mean, it totally changed his shooting motion. He couldn't handle the ball like he normally did. And so, again, it was amazing he was out there. But at a certain point, like, does it hurt the team? Especially the way Cameron Payne was playing. He took some shots where you're like, bro, you shouldn't shoot that. For the Lakers, it looks like this is going to be a Trez series rather than an Andre Drummond one. Montrez was feasting, and you saw he likes the matchup with the slower-footed Suns bigs. Other than Ayton, right? You look at Sarge, Kaminsky, whoever's out there, you know, they're guys that Trez can attack. And so you saw him play well. The Suns controlled the game, even though CP and that drama, right? It was Devin Booker just doing his thing, man. Showing the full tool bag. Showing elite decision-making. That dribble handoff where he comes off, firing off right, changes pace. He can make all the reads. He can pull up. He can get all the way to the rim. It's a problem. Start of the fourth quarter, I thought it was Caruso that was really the catalyst in the Lakers' push where, I mean, he was mad erect out there, taking charges and shit, hit a couple corner threes. I thought he gave them some life and some momentum. And then LeBron with another crazy acting job. He gets kind of twisted and pulled down, lands on the shoulder. Things got a little spicy. Cam Payne gets thrown out. Montrez comes and snatches him. Who was it? He felt a type of way about Caruso. I don't know what it was about, right? But LeBron's on the floor, writhing in pain yet again. Chris Paul, I think, tried to pick him up by the arm that he was clutching. Like, man, you ain't hurt. I do the same thing, bro. We went to the same school when it comes to this shit. And I just don't get it with LeBron. I don't get what the psychology is. I don't get the advantage that he's looking for when he does these things. Is it an excuse that he's trying to build in? Because Jordan or Kobe, I know Mark Jackson referenced Jordan and Kobe and how they have no off switch, and how that's not necessarily a good thing all the time. Jordan and Kobe would never show that type of weakness. Never. And so, again, help me figure it out. I'm not saying there's not a benefit to it. I just don't see what it is. And not to get too far out of pocket, but does this go back to not having a father figure? Someone who said, hey, get your ass up. Stop crying. Right? Is this a cry for a father figure, LeBron? All right, that was a low blow. I'm just tired of seeing it. I'm tired of seeing it. You tweak an ankle, you take a shot to the face. Fine, react. Don't lay belly down on the floor twitching your leg. I'm sick of seeing it, bro. But the storyline was Anthony Davis, right? Dominating brought it to him. Couldn't have been more impressed with Ayton in his performance, especially after the last matchup of the regular season where he looked like he wanted no smoke. And he brought it to AD last night, man. I tried to tell y'all the Suns were way more dangerous than the Jazz. I tried to tell y'all this. Now, I did question Ayton's toughness and stuff, but just an overall, like if things are clicking, they're way more dangerous. And yesterday, things weren't even clicking, right? You had Chris Paul out there playing with half his body. And they still beat this Lakers team. But again, I go back to Anthony Davis because this was his responsibility. LeBron James has been back for 4 games? He clearly doesn't have his legs under him. LeBron's not even looking to attack. AD has to sense that and take over. And it wasn't like he was forcing things and he just shot inefficiently. He just coasted. He didn't play hard in my eyes. And so he took the blame post-game and said it was on him. Yeah, you're damn right, AD, it was on you. If I'm Phoenix, if I'm Monty Williams game 2, I start out the game and I load up on Anthony Davis super aggressively early. I send the doubles, traps. I'm just super aggressive. I'm almost selling out on Anthony Davis early, knowing he's going to be looking for redemption. Now, Anthony Davis is a fine playmaker out of that high post right now. He may kick it out, make the basketball read. They may hit some threes off of it, but that's fine. I'm willing to sacrifice that so he doesn't get going and feel good early with his own offense, because I think what that will do is he'll fall back to his natural docile temperament. If you really get aggressive and send the traps, he'll be like, well, I'm just making the basketball read, because he's going to come out. We've seen this before. Like, sometimes it takes a shitty performance to bring a great one out of Anthony Davis. He's not a self-motivated player. He's got to have a stinker in order to flash what he can do. And so Phoenix has to be prepared for that. This is going to be a long series. I told y'all that. I'm curious to see, though, with Chris Paul. I don't know, at a certain point, what they call it, a contusion. That's a very vague injury statement. It seemed like he was having some sort of like neurological issue on the right side of his trap, shoulder, back area. So I think all eyes will be on CP and how he's moving in this game too. But the Lakers, they in trouble, y'all. They in trouble. All right, this is running a little long here. I do have to talk about the game of the weekend, though. Knicks Hawks in New York, 15,000 in attendance. Atlanta looked ready, man. Right? New York had 5 points in the first 6 minutes of the game, and I think you saw that young Knicks team kind of feeling that New York pressure. That New York pressure is different. But then again, so is the love. And again, Atlanta comes out looking ready to go. I felt really good about the Hawks start, and then I saw Gallo's hair. He looked like he was out of American History X. Now, I don't know, man. I don't know who did he lose a bet? Did Lou Will give him a mohawk? I could see Lou Will being like, hey, Gallo, that's fly, baby. You need a mohawk. Anyway, it was the game of the weekend. 15,000 in attendance. It was a special moment, man. It almost felt weird to see almost a full crowd. But then you add the fact that New York, it's in the Garden. They're extra thirsty for this moment. And then it was the game of the weekend. RJ Barrett with the blammer on Bogey. That shit was legit. But the best part about that dunk, how he elevated, it was just picturesque. But then there was no celebration. He's like, this is what I'm supposed to do. Someone got to get Spike a walker, though, or a cane, something, right? You see Spike jumping up and down. It doesn't look like it's going to end well for him if he keeps doing that. I'll tell you what, though. Alec Burks, Derrick Rose, Emmanuel Quickley, that's a light show off the bench. Like, when you think about this Knicks team, you think about effort, you think about defense. But those three guards off the bench, you already knew Quickley. You could tell from watching, Emmanuel, the rookie out of Kentucky throughout the regular season. You could tell he's built for the playoffs already. You already knew he different, right? He don't give a shit. And maybe it hurts him to an extent. He takes some questionable shots, but you knew the playoff atmosphere wouldn't affect young Quickley. They let him play. Again, it was a great game, but Julius Randle, that has to be the story, right? All I've done is heap love and praise on him all year. You could see he felt the pressure of being the guy, the franchise guy. Has Randle played in the playoffs? I'm trying to rack my brain here. I don't think he has, right? Not in LA, certainly. Did that Pelicans team make the playoffs? I can't remember, man. It looked like it was his first playoff game. But you could also tell, you got to give the Hawks credit, you could tell they studied Randle's cadence, his rhythm with his dribble and his cadence, because they were draped all over that step back he likes, right? I don't think he took an open shot last night. And then what I started to realize was you saw a legit home court advantage for New York, especially in that second half when they got going. Because again, there was 15,000 in attendance. And it got me to thinking, each state, each city has their own rules of how many people can attend in the crowds. That's going to be a unique advantage in these playoffs where I don't know what Atlanta's doing, but let's just say they go back to Atlanta for game 3 and Atlanta can have like 4,000 people there. That's not equal to the 15,000 in the Garden. And so it'll be interesting to see how these crowds affect this playoffs, because it's a variable that I didn't think about until I saw it last night. So the game is back and forth. There was no separation. It felt like it was a 2-possession game the entire time. End of the third quarter, start of the fourth, Lou Will comes in, he starts cooking. And then Alec Burks just goes nuts. 18 points in the fourth. Burks is a very unique player. He's very irky-jerky, that pigeon-toed gait where he's so sudden. He's like an awkward boxer, right? His rhythm is different, and so it's very hard to sync up with him as a defender. And when the jumper's going from the perimeter, there's not a whole lot you can do with him. The thing with the Knicks in that trio of guards and the whole scoring by committee thing, it's great until it isn't. A lot of the times when you say, oh, we have depth, it also means you don't have a real go-to guy. Now, Randall's supposed to be that guy. I'm very curious to see how he bounces back because he took some shots late in that game to me that were just unacceptable, especially when you consider how well Burks was shooting and some of those other guys, guards, were going. I don't think there was a need for him to take some of those shots, but again, that's who he is, right? Randall's not going to be discouraged. He's going to keep playing, but he hurt them last night. You know, that's what it was. And then late, you saw Trey doing what he do, drawing a cheap foul in just a crucial situation. Tibbs, they challenged it. I thought it should have been overturned because I thought it was an irregular motion backwards. He hooked the arm and then he flails back, but they called it a foul. Here's the thing. No one likes these cheap bailout fouls, but at the same time, we all will sit and criticize a player for settling for a jump shot in those situations. So we can't have it both ways. Trey didn't settle. He went and got the foul and went to the line. And I think it would be selling him short to just complain about the cheap one because that wasn't really how he played. He dominated that game. He's a top 3 passer in the league. That's just what it is. And you saw him create late for others and then proceed to hit one of the coldest silencers I've seen in a while. He left that Garden crowd shocked. And then what was there, like 1.9 on the clock or something? And Randall thinks he has enough time to turn, dribble, shimmy, fade with a second on the clock. I don't know the exact time. All I know is there was enough time to just catch and shoot. Randall, and to be fair, they gave him the ball in a bad spot. They gave him the ball with his back to the basket, but instead of just catching and shooting, he wanted to like get into his little rhythmic fade. He didn't even get it off. But I'm looking forward to the rest of this series. It looks like it might be the most competitive first round series. We'll see. Tonight, Bucks, Heat, Blazers, Nuggets, Game 2. This is the Hezi, brought to you by basketballgods.net. I'm out, y'all.